Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Anita. I think we probably actually most of us know her, but if somebody's watching online, they might not. Anita Roberts is the, and correct me if I get something wrong, the Regional Long-Term Care Ombudsman for Caldwell County with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments Area Agency on Aging. Anita might have one of the longest introductions of anybody we work with. There's a lot of stuff to tell there, but she's going to talk to us. It is World Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and next week is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So she's going to talk to us a little bit about elder abuse, and I will let her take over and she can talk a little more about herself too and what she does if she wants to, and then kind of go through the program.
Okay, good morning. My name is Anita Roberts, and I do work in Caldwell County as the long-term care ombudsman. And June 15th, next Tuesday, will be World Awareness Day for Elder Abuse. We encourage everyone to wear purple. We'll be doing a lot of different activities to, make people aware of elder abuse, from wearing wristbands, just lots of different things going on. So what I want to talk about today, this is a presentation that was actually created through Centralina. Laurie Albauner actually put this together. Christina Franklin has used this in the past, and so I'm going to continue with it with everyone today. And it's basically blow the whistle on elder abuse. And that's what we do. We want to make people aware that it is happening. There are some session goals that we can go over here. The session goals are that hopefully everyone who's here today will understand the different forms and indicators of abuse, be able to identify risk factors of abuse, have an increased awareness of abuse, and understand what to do if you suspect elder abuse. Okay, next slide. Elder abuse is really under the radar. It's kind of got the, for every case of elder abuse that comes to the attention of a responsible entity, another 23 cases never comes to life. So, we've got this iceberg effect. It's just the tip of the iceberg is what is actually reported. And the timeline of abuse prevention legislation, just a little background on how this has come about. 1974 was the Child Abuse Prevention Efforts. 1994 was the Violence Against Women Act. And then the U.S. timeline of preventive legislation. So when did elder abuse legislation become a federal law? Okay, the history, 1950, the Department of Health and Education Welfare awarded a demonstration project for protective service units. Then in 1981, Prevention, Identification, and Treatment of Adult Abuse Bill 1981 was presented but not passed. Then in 2006, Elder Justice Acts was finally introduced in the 107th and 108th, 109th, 110th, and 111th Congresses. In 2010, after 5 years going before the Congress, the Elder Abuse Justice Act was finally signed into law as part of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Okay, so it was a long time coming. This is kind of the history of elder abuse. So the U.S. timeline of U.S. prevention legislation, 2010. So when did elder abuse legislation become federal law? 2010, that's 11 years ago. So it's fairly new. The prevention, when did elder abuse prevention legislation, when did the funds become available? Well, we're still working on that. Annual financial losses by victims of financial exploitation was estimated to be at 2.9 billion in 2009. New research through TrueLink reports that elder financial abuse in 2015 revealed that seniors lose about 36.48 billion to elder financial abuse each year. Okay. Other findings from the TrueLink report is previous losses. A senior who has lost as little as $20 a year to exploitation could be expected to lose $2,000 a year in other types of fraud. Seniors who receive just one telemarketing phone call per day is likely to experience 3 times as much financial loss as someone who receives no or only occasional calls. I don't know how many calls you get a day, but I really feel for those folks who get those repeat calls over and over, wanting them to do this, do that. Do you need to do this? They are obsessive. It's estimated that 950,000 seniors are currently skipping meals as a result of financial abuse. Violent injury to elders is estimated to be 5.3 billion to the nation's annual health expenditures. Elders who experience abuse, even modest abuse, had a 300% higher risk of death when compared to those who had not been abused. The quality of life and safety and trust is priceless. So now we're going to actually define what abuse is. Defining abuse. Elder abuse is a single or a repeated act or lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of trust, which causes harm or distress to an older person. Domestic elder abuse refers to any of the several forms of maltreatment of an older person by someone who has a special relationship with the elder, a spouse, a sibling, a child, a friend, or a caregiver, that occur in the elder's home or in the home of the caregiver. Then there's institutional elder abuse. This refers to the same forms of abuse but takes place in residential facilities, and the perpetrators are persons who have a legal or contractual obligation to provide elder victims with care and protection. Types and forms of abuse are similar. The reporting requirement is the same. The occurrence of the problem is increasing, and risk factors of abuse are similar. Consequences of this crime are the same, whether it's domestic versus institutional abuse. Elder abuse is an umbrella term for several types of abuse, of elder abuse / mistreatment. You have abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Those are the 3 different types. We'll start by talking about abuse. Abuse is the willful infliction of physical pain, injury, or anguish, unreasonable confinement, intimidation, or punishment. These include physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, and also sexual abuse. The forms of physical abuse are hitting, slapping, punching, pinching, using hot or cold water, improper use of medicine, beating, scratching, biting, burning, tripping, or using improper restraints. Forms of verbal abuse. Next slide. Okay. Any oral, written, or gestured language that willfully includes disparaging or derogatory terms to the care recipient or within their hearing distance. Making threats of harm, insulting, insulting or laughing at the individual, frightening the individual, leveraging power over a dependent individual, doing if you do this, then consequent statements, Forms of mental abuse include threats of injury, unreasonable confinement, punishment, harassment, or verbal intimidation, and humiliation, which may result in anguish, anxiety, and depression. Making a fist as a gesture of a future harm, telling elders to have a bowel movement in the bed or brief rather than toileting, unnecessary isolation or restraint, and threatening to withhold food, water, warmth, or medication. Indicators of psychological abuse: recent or sudden change in behavior, seemingly unjustified fear, unwarranted suspicion, unwillingness to talk, crying, and withdrawing. Forms of sexual abuse: sexual contacts that result from the threat, force, or the inability of the individual to give consent. Sexual coercion, do this or else, rape, sexual assault, an alert oriented male fondling a confused female, a caregiver touching a person inappropriately during bathing, any sexual act that occurs when one or both parties cannot or do not consent. And then we have neglect. Neglect, the caregiver neglect is the failure of the caregiver, whether paid or unpaid, to provide the needed service to avoid physical harm or mental anguish, and to maintain mental health of the disabled adult. Basic needs are unmet. Then we have self-neglect. Self-neglect occurs when the disabled adult is not able to provide necessary services to maintain mental and physical health. Basic needs are unmet. Okay, here's a photo of self-neglect. Indicators of self-neglect: wandering in a yard or neighborhood, forgetfulness in turning off the stove, gas or lights, inability to cook, eat, medicate, bathe, toilet, or dress, living in unsafe home or an environment. Okay, that's the self-neglect side. Caregiver neglect is failure to provide food, shelter, clothes, care, and supervision. Failure to provide a safe living situation, failure to provide or arrange medical care, and failure to manage resources. And probably neglect is one of the major forms of abuse. Then we have exploitation. Exploitation is defined as it includes illegal or improper use of the elder adult's resources, cash, vehicles, property, for profit or advantage. The indicators of exploitation: older adults become overly worried about finances. The older adult is routinely upset after a visit from a certain friend or relative. Unexplained withdrawals from bank account. Using deceit or coercion to obtain money or assets. Convincing an elder to sign legal documents against their will or without their knowledge. Indicators of exploitation continued: unexplained isolation. Elder becomes victim of a professional scam. Missing medication indicates drug diversion. Mismanagement of funds, including failure to pay for essential services. guardian or power of attorney makes excuses about or is unable to explain a change in the older adult's finances. Who are the abused and who are the abusers? Risk increases with age. More than half of the victims are older than 80 years old. Risk increases as the level of dependence increases. Risk is greater for females. An estimated 66% of victims are women. Risk increases for those who are physically or verbally aggressive toward others. Who are the abused? 60% of victims show signs of dementia or confusion. It is estimated that 50% of individuals with dementia have been mistreated by caregivers. Risk increases for those who have a history of domestic violence and substance abuse. More than 40% show signs of depression. And these statistics do vary according to the type of abuse. Who are the abusers? 90% of abusers are family members. Of these, 50% are adult children, 20% are the intimate partners, and then domestic abuse ages into elder abuse. Other abusers, 10% include friends, neighbors, and service providers. Men, 52% and 48% of women abuse older adults almost equally. So that's like a 50-50. You know, there's 52% men, 48% of the abusers are, it's a 50-50 split there, 52-48. 1/3 of the abusers are actually seniors themselves. And we have more information about the abusers. People with inadequately treated mental health or substance abuse problems are more likely to be abusive. Caregivers who feel stressed and are burdened are more likely to be abusive, especially caregivers of physically combative and or verbally abusive individuals. The abuser is dependent on the older person for housing, finances, or other needs. Then we have some common excuses of the abusers. I have a problem with my temper. I was drunk or high. I'm sick. It's not my fault. In my culture, elders share their resources. That's a cultural excuse. And he is too difficult to care for, and that comes out of caregiver stress. So those are, excuses of abusers. Now, this is the main point of that we want you to get today: reporting and responding to elder mistreatment. In North Carolina, the North Carolina reporting law. North Carolina has a law that applies to disabled adults who might be abused, neglected, or exploited and may need protection. And this is the North Carolina General Statute 108A-100. If you have a reason to believe that an older or disabled adult has been abused, neglected, or exploited, you must contact the County Department of Social Services. This is the North Carolina law concerning reporting abuse. Making a report of abuse. Okay, there's no excuse not to report. Why report? Who to call, when to call, and what information you need when you do call. 8 ways that you can help blow the whistle on elder abuse. Help increase awareness. You can host an educational presentation for the group. Use Facebook or Twitter. Work to change attitudes toward the elderly. Help support caregivers. Offer to help a neighbor who is a caregiver. And if you know a caregiver, watch out for signs of burnout. Reach out to a senior that you are concerned about. Ask if something may be wrong. Number 5, participate in the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It's celebrated annually on June 15th. Number 6, make a commitment to always report suspected abuse. When in doubt, report, report, report. Remember that you may just save a life. Number 7, start or join an abuse task force in your area. And number 8, join the North Carolina Partnership to address adult abuse. And this is you can join this. It's a Facebook group that you can join. Working with clients who are victims of elder mistreatment. Tips on screening clients. Incorporate standards and questions about abuse and safety upon intake of every client case. Keep questions automatic and formalized to minimize the stigma and encourage dialogue and disclosure. Remain calm if a client discloses mistreatment. Thank your client for sharing their story, and it is okay to show emotion, but keep the focus on your client. Interview your client alone and assure privacy. If your client requires assistance, try to provide assistance from an independent agency. Some sample screening questions. Who makes decisions about your life, such as how or when how or where you should live? Who controls your finances and makes financial decisions? How is that working out? What happens when you and so, the person, disagree about life decisions or finances? Has a caregiver ever yelled or threatened you? Is this happening now? Have you ever been touched by someone in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable? Is this going on now? Are you able to talk with or get out with friends, family as you wish? Are you fearful of anyone? Talking with clients who are victims of elder mistreatment. Keep your response focused on compassion and referral. Listen with empathy and without judgment. Affirm the victim's right to safety and affirm that safety is your first concern. Reassure the victim that abuse is not their fault. If your conversation is confidential or privileged, remind your client of that fact and that you will not act without their permission. Help the victim to connect to a domestic violence or sexual assault or elder abuse advocate or adult protective services or local law enforcement. Understand that the client may have a genuine, valid concerns about reporting abuse. Okay. Now that's pretty much the slideshow. That has all of the specific information on how to blow the whistle on elder abuse. But it is important that each person, if you feel that elder abuse may be occurring in your area or with someone you talk with or someone you know, it is very important that you make the report to Adult Protective Services. The report can be done confidentially. So the once you report it, you do not have to give your identification name, but you just have to give the information about the individual, and the APS can do an investigation and find out if abuse is there. But it is important, if you suspect abuse, that you do report it. The main concern is that it's underreported. So if you feel that someone is being abused, bring it up. You can speak with them about it, and then you can also report that to Adult Protective Services at our local DSS.
Hey, Anita, I have
Yes.
a question just for clarification.
Uh-huh.
In the slideshow right there at the very end, and I'm not sure who the PowerPoint is geared toward there with the clients at the end,
Right.
but it says to assure people that you will not act without their consent, except that people in North Carolina are mandated reporters. So if they tell you something, I just wondered if you could clarify that.
Yeah, you in North Carolina, if you're a professional, you are a mandated reporter. So you have to report, and that's usually, you just need to let the person know that since I know about this, I have to report this. So it is law in North Carolina. If you know about an abuse, whether it's child abuse or elder abuse, if you know about it, you are required to report. You report it to APS. They will either substantiate or unsubstantiate it. That you don't have any control over that once you turn the information over. But you do probably need to just assure the person that since I know about this, I need to let someone know that can help you. And let them know that you are required by law. North Carolina, you're a mandated report. It's mandated that you report this type of abuse.
And I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm a little bit removed from the APS field now, but and I'm not sure if that's geared toward ombudsmen's possibly in that statement in the PowerPoint, because I thought that was a little odd. But I think there is some difference in what an ombudsman can report and what the general public
public, yeah. As an ombudsman, we do have to have permission from the person to make a report. But as the law states in North Carolina, everyone is required to make a report if they are aware of abuse or suspected abuse. You don't have to have the proof. You just have to have the concern for the person that something is not quite right, and the professional will then go in and make a determination of what the situation is at that point.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. Yes, that is because, and that Lori is an ombudsman, so that's probably why that was in that particular thing. But for the general public, you are a mandated reporter. If you know about it, you need to report it. And that's why it's like an iceberg. Why only the tip, there's a very small amount is reported. There's a lot more going on under the surface than what is actually reported. Any other questions? I think I've been talking for about 30 minutes. I tried to rush through it because I knew that was a lot to cover. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to speak with anyone who feels that there may be abuse in the community or in an institution. Either way.
I think Mary had a question.
Okay, Mary.
When were nursing homes started? I remember a poor farm when I was a kid, but I never remember having nursing homes. When did they start in the States?
I'm thinking in the 1920s, when they actually were, and then they had some, by 1950, there were more, homes. A lot of the nursing homes actually started as family, or smaller, and actually small family care homes, or an old folks home or an assisted, before they actually were mandated as, assisted living, skilled nursing, or family care homes. There's actually 3 different levels of homes, but probably back in the 1920s. But regulation has only come about since the 1970s.
And I'd like somebody to email me the, it was on one of the slides and I didn't catch it quick enough to write it down, but it was the site to, I guess, volunteer to, or get involved in, I don't remember what it was. It was on
In
one of the
the
slides.
North Carolina Partnership to Address Adult Abuse.
Thank you.
I'll
Yes.
send that to you.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
that is on one of, yes, there
Yep.
is a contact, a link there, and I believe there's a Facebook contact group with that.
I'll be happy to share that
Okay.
information.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
And, the whole thing is why report, who to call, when to call, what information you need, pretty much, those are the what, why, when, whatever, why report it, because you're helping that person, who to call, Adult Protective Services. And right now, they are working to get more money for APS because we are having more and more seniors who really need assistance. And so, you call APS to do the report. What information do you need? Usually their name, address, phone number, and they can take it from there. So you don't have to have a whole lot of information. Just if you got the concern, just make the report, and they will take it from that point.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you
Well,
so
I
much,
had-
Anita.
Okay, I'm sorry I rushed through that, but I wanted to get through all the slides, and it took a little over 30 minutes, but hopefully that will.
It was a lot of information.
A lot of stuff there. There is.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.